How's it going everybody? Welcome back to Star Wars Shovelware. My name's Luke and today on the channel we're going to be taking a look at Drunken Fist 2 Zombie Hangover on the Nintendo Switch, a game in which you play as an alcoholic hillbilly looking fella with wandering eyes who embarks on a cross-city yomp in search of his favourite tipple. Unfortunately, there's been a bit of a zombie outbreak, and so a spot of self-preservation is in order, and as master of the Drunken Fist, our protagonist is well equipped to deal with any undead brain muncher which comes his way. As always though, hit that like button to support me and the channel, subscribe for more Switch reviews and content, and let's get into it. So as with the first game in the series, which I've previously covered on the channel, we're only given the briefest of outlines when it comes to a story in this one, and through a comic book style introductory cutscene, we learn that after going on a bit of a booze-filled bender, our unnamed drunk rocker awakens from his comatose state, only to find the entire town overrun by zombies. Unperturbed though, and in dire need of something cold and wet, he heads out on a cross-city mission to obtain some form of alcohol-infused beverage before he has the chance to sober up. Now, throughout the game nothing else is presented to us in the way of story material, but the environments that we travel through hint that at least some attempt has been made to stop the zombie outbreak. We encounter quarantine tents with zombies clad in protective radiation suits, a bunch of military zombies still clutching pistols and rifles, and at the end of the game we ultimately discover the fate of this zombie infested wasteland. Like before though, the story leaves a lot to be expected with this one, and I'm hoping that for a third entry in the series we get a little bit more in terms of plot development, as so far both games have relied almost entirely on the gameplay to keep them afloat. Now, the first game in the series saw us playing as some old beardy looking fella sporting a less than cool baseball cap and body warmer combo, while this new one has us playing as a younger looking rocker fella, but gameplay in both games is predominantly focused around classic beat 'em up combat, with a spot of alcohol thrown into the mix to keep things interesting. The objective in each of the game's 8 levels though is to simply make your way through them to the designated exit point, along the way killing the specified number of zombies, and this is a formula that was introduced in the first title but sadly hasn't been iterated or improved on in any meaningful way. What has seen some significant changes however are the combat mechanics. Whereas the first game was a pure slugfest relying on manual aiming of your character's attacks and depending more on luck than skill to actually land your punches and kicks, Drunken Fist 2 has a little more structure to its combat, with your character able to lock on to nearby opponents, allowing you to strafe around them and direct your attacks towards them. The iconic leg sweep attack also makes a reappearance, allowing you to floor your opponents before taking out the teeth with a well placed boot to the chops, and to complement your offensive manoeuvres, you can also perform a defensive backstep which when used tactically allows you to dodge incoming attacks and get yourself out of sticky situations, so all in all a decent arsenal of moves to get the job done. Like the first game, the piss meter is also back, requiring you to periodically empty your bladder, leaving a yellow syrup-like mess on the floor, which if stepped on causes both you and the zombies to hit the deck, but the alcohol dependency meter is gone, which to be honest is a welcome change, and the bottles which litter the levels are now solely used to top up your health. Now the combat itself is mostly satisfying, wading into enemies and wailing on them in a flurry of drunken punches and kicks is especially satisfying when you land a solid blow and send a zombie flying, or have its head completely explode and see its eyeballs plop out onto the tarmac, and there are a couple of new melee weapons included in the sequel that you can snag for some easy one-shot kills. But it can also be very frustrating, as the game has absolutely horrendous hitbox detection, so whether you actually land your hits is again much down to RNG. The lock-on system can also be a bit of a nightmare at times, as you automatically lock onto the nearest opponent, which has a tendency to pull the camera all over the place. You have no way of manually removing the lock-on, which really screws you over if you find yourself surrounded by enemies, and sometimes it breaks the lock-on or just doesn't bother to lock on at all. So aside from battling the undead and stumbling your way through your drunken haze towards the exit, there's really little else to do in the game, and like its predecessor, this is undoubtedly my main issue with Drunken Fist 2, as gameplay is enjoyable for about the first 30 or so minutes, but does become a little stale towards the end. Admittedly, there are a few different zombie types introduced which do at least add a little bit of variety, including leaping zombies, the biosuit wearing ones which spew radioactive gunk over you, and towards the end the soldiers, who despite being dead are still able to fire the weapons at you. But it's still the same thing in every level: kill zombies and get to the exit, and I really would have liked to have seen some additional objectives, like maybe rescue a few people or pop into a local bar for a top me up, but sadly it's pretty one-dimensional so far as gameplay goes. Overall though, I'd say that Drunken Fist 2 has enough going for it to provide about an hour or so of fun, which coincidentally is about all you get due to the length of the game. There's nothing in the way of replayability with it, and despite you gaining a score for your efforts displayed in the top right corner, this isn't actually saved anywhere and disappears once you complete the game. If you played and enjoyed the first Drunken Fist, you'll probably enjoy this one, and while it's pretty much more of the same, it is an improvement over the original, and the change of scenery is a welcome effort. So when it comes to the visuals, Drunken Fist 2 definitely sees an improvement over the first game. It still uses low poly Unity assets for its characters and environments, but they've been put to good use and overall the game looks decent. We still get the dodgy camera sway to simulate inebriation and a bit of a screen blur, which like the first game will no doubt offer a bit of motion sickness to some players, but it is without a doubt still the most accurate drunken fighting game on the platform. On the audio side of things, nothing special here. We get some zombie sound effects, a few grunts from our kung fu master, and some nice meaty splats when dismembering limbs. Music is relatively decent, we get an assortment of rock tunes, but they mostly sit in the background and don't do an awful lot to complement gameplay. Overall, pretty average stuff here. So the game performs reasonably well on the Switch, although we do get quite a few frame rate issues in the more built up areas, but it doesn't have a huge negative effect on gameplay. Issues wise, I've already mentioned the terrible hitbox detection and dodgy lock-on mechanics, but the game in general is packed full of jank, and you likely won't go a full level without noticing some kind of glitch or bug. Most of them though don't cause any real issues and just end up adding to the amusement of it all. I encountered plenty of floating enemies, on several occasions I found myself losing health due to a full bladder and the piss button completely failing to work, and occasionally skimming up against a doorway as you exit it will cause your arm to get trapped, meaning you're unable to throw punches properly, though I have to admit this one's also pretty funny. All in all though, Drunken Fist 2 is a simple but enjoyable beat 'em up, and I'd say that I had as much fun playing this one as I did the first game. Again, the gameplay does start to flag a little towards the end of the game, and in general it's pretty short lived with no replayability, but it's fun while it lasts, and so when it comes to my own personal rating, I'm going to be giving Drunken Fist 2 Zombie Hangover 2 out of 5 stars. If you've ever wondered what it'd be like to get pissed up and fight your way through a zombie apocalypse, Drunken Fist 2 should provide you with a pretty good idea. Just don't go in expecting too much from this one. And so that about does it for this review of Drunken Fist 2 Zombie Hangover on the Nintendo Switch. So did you actually play the first one? And will you be partaking in some more drunk fu with this one? Let me know down in the comments section below. As always, drop a like and a sub if you enjoy my content and want to see more. Thanks once again for watching, and until next time, take care of yourselves and game on.